Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Board of Commissioners work session. Before we approve the agenda, there needs to be some adjustments. We will need to hear from Zebulon Public Safety Fire Station rezoning. We will put that up for the first thing, and we will need to go into closed session for personnel hearing. Any other adjustments to the agenda?
I make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Motion passes. Also, we will need to have a special call meeting on May 19th at 10 a.m. for personnel. Do I need a vote on that, or?
Yes, please.
So we need a motion for the special call meeting?
Make a motion to add a special call meeting for May 19th at 10 a.m.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Motion passed. Thank you. Planning.
This is the second presentation for the rezoning to plan development for the Zebulon Public Safety Station. Just as a brief reminder, there's particular standards in which the Commission must compare the rezoning application to. Those standards are on the screen: health, safety, general welfare, appropriate for the location, reasonable in the public interest, and other relevant factors. And planned developments must have they must be better than the strict interpretation of UDO standards. The property in which the Zebulon Public Safety Station is anticipated being constructed on is just behind us here, 200 West Judd Street. It's 11.13 acres. It's currently an office institutional zoning, and it's being proposed as a planned development. As you can see on the screen, the town has followed its standard public hearing notification process. This just shows that the current zoning matches the zoning of the town hall property right now as institutional. The future land use map supports a fire station and emergency services as a use. The property, or the project, was submitted in February. It went through first design review through our TRC in March, and the packet for the joint public hearing was submitted in April. And then this is a concept plan for the fire station. So some considerations when it comes to a planned development. We want to ensure that a planned development reflects the changes that a developer is proposing for planned development reflect an improvement or make something better than what the strict interpretation would be. So while the permitted use is not being changed within the planned development, there are some changes that are being proposed that will make this a more effective fire and public safety station. The first one being that the planned development proposes removing certain street trees in order to create better sight lines for emergency vehicles. It also proposes some changes to our architectural standards so the building is better hardened for hurricanes, and then also meets safety standards for public safety buildings. So this includes a reduction in glazing on the front of the building, and some changes to our primary entrance standards and things like that. So the planned development effectively is designed to modify the strict zoning in order to make this fire station meet industry standards. There are some road improvements that are associated with this project as well, including adding some additional width for future turn lane median and adding a sidewalk onto Judd Street. All development, including ones that are chartered by the town, are still subject to our utility allocation policy. And as you can see on the screen, that this proposal meets our utility allocation policy and is eligible for City of Raleigh water. The outcome of this project is that it will allow for the town to construct a public safety station at 200 West Judd Street. Staff recommends approval of this project. We find that the standards are met. And the Planning Commission on Monday night unanimously recommended approval of this as well. And so sample motion is on the screen. That ends my presentation. The fire chief is here if you have any particular questions. The only thing I know about fire trucks is what my son watches on TV, on YouTube. So.
Comments, questions from the board?
I'd like to make a motion, Mayor. I hereby move to approve Ordinance 2025-32 for rezoning of the Zebulon Public Safety Station, finding that it is consistent with the GROW Zebulon Comprehensive Land Use Plan and the standards of Section 2.2.25.j have been met as described in prepared statement per UDO 2.2.15.g.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion? Roll vote. Commissioner Baxter.
In favor.
Commissioner Miles.
Favor.
Commissioner Harrison.
Favor.
Commissioner Clark. Commissioner Davis. Motion passes. Thank you.
Woo-hoo.
Thank you, Matt.
Let's get this thing built.
Next is budget presentations.
Commissioners, good afternoon. So as in previous presentations tonight, we will present to you budgets for 4 different departments, I will say. For the first time, we have standalone budget requests for the governing board, that's yourself, and the town clerk, as well as Human Resources Department. If you recall, we did the same thing last year with information technology, so we're doing that separately today. We also have administration we present, and then we'll wrap up with finance department. How we'll do the presentation for administration and human resources, Ms. Lisa Markland will do for the governing board, and our finance director, Bobby Fitz, will do for finance. We've presented to you now twice, I think, on May 5th and also May 7th. The budget schedule going forward after tonight, and this schedule is also on the website. But after tonight, next week, May 20, I will present officially to you our first draft budget for the FY 25-26 fiscal year. Will be a recommendation for you to review and consider. We had a soft open house this evening, but we're going to have another one next week at 5 p.m. I just want to make sure that we continue to engage the public who may have questions.
And that will be on the second floor?
Yes, okay. The second floor.
Second floor of the Municipal Center.
Yes, thank you for clarifying that. And then on June 2nd, we're going to have a public hearing. And then June 7th, that's a Saturday, we're going to have a retreat that's focused on the budget. And then we're looking at either June 16 or June 23rd, depending on your pleasure, for adoption of the budget. So I will start with the administration department presentation to you. Next slide. Sorry. I should have the click. It's really just the what the organization chart looks like, and you will notice, and I will explain this, is that we have the what used to be the assistant town manager. We're referring to that as assistant to the town manager, but to clarify that, just so people don't get confused, we could make that a senior administrative analyst position. And then what we had as communications director before is now going to be communications manager. Those report directly to the town manager. The two requests, basically, one is for the assistant to the town manager, and that role will be essentially primary administrative and staff support for the manager, assist the town manager on major board initiatives. You know, there are some requests that do not fall in specific departments, but they fall directly under the manager's purview, and the assistant to the manager can actually help with that. We'll do some review, research, evaluation of data for specially assigned projects, and will assist the manager in response to complaints or requests that we're getting from the constituents that do not necessarily fall under the town clerk or town attorney, but comes to the manager's office for that. The second request is to convert the communications director position to communications manager. Nobody reports to that position as a director, and so I believe that the former manager had considered converting that communications director to manager, and I believe that that's a good move to do, considering the budget here that we're in. We'll continue to have an oversight of the town brand, and then definitely take charge of the communication, press releases, coordinate our website, social media, and of course, a request to also have language access as well as community meetings. There are a number of things that will probably fall under the communications manager's responsibility. Right now, we do have a contract with a firm, NP Strategies, that's doing that for us. It started in April, but they're supposed to end by the end of June, or hopefully as soon as we have a communications manager in place to do that. As you know, we've got a number of personnel interviews that have been lined up. We started with HR director. We are going through the public works director at the moment. We will start with the communications manager within the next couple of weeks. And so hopefully we'll have all of these individuals in sometime in June. We made an offer to an HR director. I can't go beyond that. And thankfully it's been accepted. And so we expect that they will start at some point soon. So I'm hopeful that within the next 4 weeks, we can share the same information with Public Works and Communications Manager. And so all of this will go under that person's purview. By doing that, we're saving ourselves about $75,000 roughly in salaries, basically. And so that's really by moving the position to assistant, from assistant town manager to assistant to the town manager, communications director to manager. We are saving that, which could be used for other personnel support. So that's that for administration brief. I will say hold your question until, if you have any clarifying questions, until I go through the next one. So Human Resources Department has always been part of the administration, but this is going to be what the structure looks like. As our town continues to grow, we're also having growth in number of employees. And it's important to be able to meet different objectives, not just having a director and also a full-time human resources specialist, but asking for an administrative assistant that can, on a part-time basis, that can also support those two positions as we move forward. And it could be that when we have the administrative assistant and we also have the human resources specialist, we may divvy up which departments each one of them is responsible for in terms of HR responsibilities in the future. Again, it's really, the request is salary adjustment for these two full-time employees, as well as the part-time administrative assistant. When I come next week, I will have more information in terms of what those salaries are going to be like, so you have a better idea of what the numbers are. But with some of the savings that we have in the manager's office, we may be able to apply them to these particular roles. So there it is. I think unless you have questions for me, I will yield to Ms. Markland to present the governing board budget to you.
Just comments from the board? Thank you.
So this is the flow chart for, how we are set up for the Board of Commissioners. It's the Zebulon residents, the Board of Commissioners, and then the clerk is how the reporting goes. The proposed budget is pretty much the same. There is no increases being asked for. And if anything, it's a little bit less because we don't have all the bond fees that were in there for last year that was budgeted for. So it is coming up a little bit less. Some of the specifics is that you would have a new town clerk. PEG Media was moved from administration to the board because they really basically work for the board. They manage that process. There are 2 strategic planning retreats in your budget for next year. And then some of the things that have carried over were new for this year were hiring of special counsel and financial advisor for the fire station project. So those costs are still in the budget. It was some of what was used for the bond last year. Questions?
I have one.
Are there questions from the board?
For East Wake TV, I see they do a lot of stuff in the community. Is that through us, paid through us, or is that for the community? How's that handled?
All right, so PEG Media gets funded. They're a public broadcast station. And so they have to broadcast things that are public-oriented. So that's why they do all of our meetings. They do the parades. They do other things within the community. And the money comes from the state government. So the state funds that service, and it comes to the town, and the town gives it to PEG Media to do the services for us because we don't have the ability to staff a public broadcast station.
So basically, it's $75,000 that we talk about each time. Is that correct? Basically, they're about $75,000.
Yes, roughly that. You never know if it's going to be changed by when they adopt the state budget.
Doesn't come out of our
Our
general
budget,
fund.
Does
It
not.
comes
It's
from
a
the state.
pass-through.
Yeah.
Correct. What I'm trying to understand is, okay, I see you do a lot of things for the citizens. Do the citizens directly reach out to East Wake, or they come to us and say, okay, I need this covered? How does that work?
They should be coming to us for that because the funds come through the town. So it was going through the communications manager at one point, and I'm not quite sure who it's going to now.
Okay.
I don't know. I can't answer that one, sorry.
Well, let's figure that out.
I can ask Gary.
Okay,
understand.
cool.
Yeah,
I mean, I feel like it's just a question.
Yeah, I think that's what it more so is just trying to understand like how it works, because I had some citizens ask how do they determine which events they cover and whatnot, so with that funding.
Yeah, anything, like all of our extra meetings, we're allotted 2 meetings a month, and anything over and above that, we pay out of our funds for. So all the extra meetings that we have, we pay for those services.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments from the board? Thank you.
All right. Good evening. I'll be pretty brief because it's pretty straightforward, and I'll hold the line budget for the finance department this year. You'll see our org chart here with the finance director and the accountant 2 and the payroll specialist, the 3 of us, the full-time employees in finance. This year's request, there's no new positions requested, only a salary adjustments for the 3 employees. The pay study could come into play in various ways regarding those adjustments. You heard a little bit about when David Hill was here last week, basically the 3 options that we had him formulate for us. The one of them was about 1.1 million. That equates to essentially about 4.1 cents on the tax rate. That would affect about 95% of our employees. Option 2 is about 500,000 or 1.9 cent on the tax rate. That would basically impact all 100 with at least a COLA adjustment and to get them more to market. And then the COLA adjustment for those that are kind of at market. Option 3 is about 315,000 or 1.2 cent on the tax rate. That would only half of our employees would be impacted by that. The only real significant changes in the finance budget this year, you'll notice the retiree insurance is a fairly substantial increase. We had 2 new retirees, bringing us to 20 total now. Healthcare costs are going up, adding new people, so you'll see a fairly significant increase on that. And then for contract services, Wake County bills and collects our property taxes for us. They recently implemented a fee increase up to 0.75% of collections. We've been having growth, so our tax revenue is increasing. Therefore, our fee that we're paying to them is also increasing. Our revenues increased about 38% from 24 to 25. So you'll see a decent increase on that fee. Just to talk a little bit about fund balance. You remember back in December, I think it was, when the audit was presented. These may look familiar to you. We had a total fund balance of $27.7 million, 12.1 million. That was unassigned. That was 41% per our policy, which you'll recall our policy is unassigned, has to be greater than 30% of budgeted expenditures. The state statute only requires 8%. Obviously, more smaller municipalities and governmental units are going to have more than that because, it's the dollar amount, the difference. This is rough estimates, but the projected fund balance at June 30, 25, about 28 million, 12.5 million of that, or 44% per our policy, would be unassigned, leaving approximately 4.1 million for appropriation for the 26 budget. This could be utilized for outstanding infrastructure and public safety capital needs. That's really all I had. I'll be glad to take any kind of questions.
Any questions, comments from the board? Commissioner Baxter?
Could you go back to the pay study implementation screen? Okay, so how is the higher tax rate and the appropriation of 1.1 million only covering 95% of the employees?
It gets everybody it basically picks them up, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, it picks everybody up in their current pay band at the same point or compa ratio and moves them, adjusts the pay bands to a market rate and moves them to their same point in that pay grade.
Yes.
In the new pay grade.
Okay.
So therefore, a few people are not impacted, but some are impacted more.
No, this.
A lot more as compared to option 2, where everybody gets a market to market or a COLA adjustment.
Okay, so this is going to be, if we choose the first option, that is going to bring everyone pretty much up to what the pay study says the market rate is?
Correct.
Yes, that's the correct answer. But the difference between that and option 2 is the cost of living adjustment, which is not in option 1, but it's in option 2. But option 1 actually moves really everyone, except for the small percentage that are okay right now. Moves everybody's pay band from where they are to where they're supposed to be.
Awesome. Thank you.
Commissioner Miles?
This is directed to the town manager. Just kind of curious, we spoke briefly about updating the system for pay for citizens at the window. Where would that fit into finances budget? Just out of curiosity.
Could you repeat that?
Update the pay status, how people pay at the window for finance. Where would this fit into his budget? Just kind of curious.
I'm still not, sorry.
In order to take cards at the window, what does that look like for his budget? Where would that fit into the finances budget?
Oh, I think that would generally be in the general funds, right? Not necessarily in finance budget.
And what are you talking about for a customer to pay a town fee?
Correct. Right now, what she has to do, she has to come in, punch in a number, punch in the
Oh.
card and everything. So to update that, what does that look like?
Oh, a couple $100 probably.
Okay.
That's
Can we-
minor. That's
We
minor.
talked about that.
Correct.
Right, and I did do some investigation myself that it does address some pay types right now, but not everything.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, like if somebody comes to pay, we take City of Raleigh fees. It's a separate system, separate computer through a separate internet connection that we can run a card through the machine. Like they just tap it or insert it, so on and so forth. But for our town fees, that's separate. And we don't have a card reader. We can take a card through our software. And like you said, you have to key it in. It's a little slow, but it's fairly rare that we have it. So we just didn't get the equipment. It's not that much.
Can we look into this budget somewhere, putting it there? Thank you.
I don't think we have to wait for the budget to get that done.
All right. Sounds good.
We can do that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments from the board? Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
Next, we need to go into closed session to allow, as allowed by GS 143-318.11 for the purpose of personnel discussion. Is there a motion to go into closed session?
Closed session?
Is there a second? Second. All in favor?